There are moments in life when even the brightest stars carry shadows no one sees. For Lionel Richie, a man whose voice defined love for generations, that shadow was a secret he kept for decades. Fame gave him everything: Grammys, Oscars, the devotion of millions. But behind the music, there was a quiet ache, a story he never finished telling. And when he finally spoke at 74, what he revealed broke hearts all over again. The making of a legend. Lionel Brockman Richie Jr. was born on June 20th, 1949, in Tuskegee, Alabama, a small town whose name would later echo through his lyrics. He grew up on the campus of Tuskegee University, surrounded by black excellence, music, and ambition. His grandmother played classical piano, his father led the college's systems office, and every weekend the young Lionel absorbed jazz, gospel, and soul that poured from church windows. In 1968, still a college student, he joined a local R&B group that would change his life, the Commodores. They became a sensation through the 1970s, opening for the Jackson 5, blending funk and soul into something fresh and irresistible. Lionel's smooth voice and poetic writing stood out. Songs like Easy and 3 Times a Lady turned him into the emotional core of the band. The world called him the golden boy of soul, the man who could make heartbreak sound tender. But success came with a cost. Touring for months at a time, living in hotel rooms and airports, Lionel barely recognized the man in the mirror. While millions fell in love with his music, someone else had already captured his heart. A woman who seemed to understand him long before the world did. Her name was Brenda Harvey, his college sweetheart from Tuskegee. They met in the early 1970s when both were young dreamers, sharing cheap meals, laughter, and the same belief that music could take them anywhere. By 1975, they married, believing love could survive fame. For a while, it did. As the Commodores rose higher, Brenda was always nearby, helping with stage outfits, answering fan mail, staying grounded while Lionel disappeared into studios. When Endless Love hit #1 in 1981, a duet with Diana Ross, Lionel had already begun writing songs that blurred the line between his real life and fantasy. The lyrics of devotion, longing, and guilt came from somewhere deeper than his audience knew. In 1983, he and Brenda adopted a little girl named Nicole, the daughter of one of Lionel's bandmates. To the public, they were the perfect family. Talented, generous, picture perfect. But perfection is heavy. Behind the smiles, the couple's foundation began to crack. Fame followed Lionel everywhere: late-night sessions, world tours, endless interviews, and Brenda was left home, raising Nicole while rumors grew louder. Lionel once said in an interview that during those years he was living out of a suitcase and dying a little every day. He didn't realize it then, but love was quietly slipping away, replaced by exhaustion and temptation. By the late 1980s, Lionel's solo career had exploded. Hello, Truly, Say You, Say Me made him a global icon. But it was also when his personal life started to unravel. That's when he met a young dancer named Diane Alexander, and his story took a turn that would haunt him for decades. The affair and the collapse. By 1986, Lionel Richie was living every musician's dream. Sold-out tours, chart-topping singles, magazine covers, and money beyond imagination. But success can be lonely when applause replaces conversation. On the set of his upbeat video Dancing on the Ceiling, he met Diane Alexander, a strikingly beautiful dancer with a quiet, confident charm. She laughed at his nervous jokes, asked about his music rather than his fame, and made him feel alive again. At first, it was friendship, phone calls, rehearsals, long talks that stretched into the night. But before long, it became something else. Lionel was still married to Brenda, yet his heart was already divided. The affair grew fast and dangerous, hidden behind hotel doors and tour schedules. Those close to the couple saw the change. Brenda's smiles grew thinner. Lionel's songs turned darker, filled with guilt and longing. The secret couldn't last. One evening in 1988, Brenda learned Lionel was at Diane's Beverly Hills apartment. She drove there herself, furious, betrayed, trembling, and when the door opened, she found them together. What happened next became Hollywood legend. Brenda reportedly kicked Lionel in the stomach before police arrived. She was arrested for trespassing and spousal abuse, while the tabloids devoured every detail. Overnight, the man once known for singing about devotion became the face of public betrayal. The scandal destroyed their marriage. In 1993, after nearly 18 years together, Lionel and Brenda divorced. He later admitted that fame and ego had ruined everything, that somewhere between stadiums and studios, he lost the ability to be present. "I destroyed myself," he would say years later. But there was no going back. 2 years after the divorce, he married Diane Alexander, the woman once called his downfall. They had 2 children, Miles, born 1994, and Sophia, born 1998. For a while, life seemed calm again. Diane supported his tours and shared his glamorous world. Yet the peace didn't last. In 2004, the marriage ended with a $20 million settlement and the same sadness that had followed Lionel for decades. He had fame, fortune, and family, but something was still missing. The reckoning and the woman who got away. After 2 divorces and years of headlines, Lionel Richie finally slowed down. The man who once sang to packed arenas began sitting alone at a piano, wondering where it had all gone wrong. By his mid-50s, the glamour had faded into silence. He had the awards, the money, the name, but not the peace he used to sing about. In 2004, the same year his second marriage collapsed, he fell gravely ill. A mysterious throat problem forced him into surgery 4 times, each operation threatening to end his voice, his very identity. "You don't want anybody fooling around down there," he later said, half joking, half terrified. During recovery, he also buried his father, Lionel Richie Sr., the man who had taught him discipline and humility. The combination nearly broke him. Then came an unexpected moment in Jamaica. Sitting alone after a show, an elderly man approached and said softly, "You must survive. You are our beacon of hope." Richie said he wept that night, realizing that people saw something in him he had stopped seeing in himself. That encounter stirred old memories of a woman he had loved long before Brenda, before Diane, before the stadium lights. He never spoke her name, but those close to him remembered her. A quiet, spiritual woman from his early Commodore's days who inspired songs like "Still and Just to Be Close to You." When she left, Lionel buried the pain in music, turning heartbreak into melody. Years later, in interviews, he hinted that she was the one that got away. Not a fantasy, not a muse, but the person who taught him what love could be before fame twisted everything. That loss, more than any divorce or scandal, would follow him into old age, a wound that never fully healed. Lisa Parigi, A Second Chance at Love. By the time Lionel Richie turned 65, most people assumed his heart had retired from love. After all, he had lived through every possible version of it: passion, betrayal, regret, and loneliness. But then came Lisa Parigi, a woman 40 years younger, whose presence would bring calm to the chaos he had created. They met in 2014 at a dinner party in Los Angeles. Lisa, then 24, was visiting from Switzerland, where she had built a career in the tech industry. She was of Caribbean, Swiss, and Chinese descent, spoke 4 languages, and had no idea who Lionel Richie was when she first met him. "She just treated me like a normal guy," he later said. For a man who had spent decades being idolized, that was the beginning of something real. Lisa wasn't a starlet or a fan chasing fame. She was an entrepreneur, the founder of the Estate Collection, a luxury candle brand inspired by travel and design, and Glow Up Beauty, a vegan skincare line. Intelligent, private, and grounded, she brought stability into Lionel's life. In his 2019 People interview, Richie admitted, "I've been through the ups and the downs, the ins and the outs of love, but Lisa makes everything feel safe." She quickly became part of his family, forming close bonds with Nicole, Miles, and Sophia Richie. When Sophia married music executive Elliot Grange in the south of France in 2023, Lisa was there, quietly, in the background, celebrating with grace. The couple traveled the world together: Amsterdam for his 74th birthday, Los Angeles for the Grammys, London for King Charles III's coronation concert, and even the Vatican, where they met Pope Francis in 2019. And yet, for all the glamour, Lionel and Lisa kept one thing deliberately missing: marriage. After 2 divorces, he said gently, "I've learned how not to lose something good." To Lisa, that was enough. She didn't need a ring to prove love. She was his peace, and he was her home. But love, for Lionel Richie, was never simple. Because no matter how happy he seemed, there was still one story left unfinished: the woman he never stopped thinking about. The confession at 74. When Lionel Richie turned 74, the world expected another concert, another smile, another polite interview about his legacy. Instead, they got silence. And then, something no one was prepared for. During a promotional interview for an upcoming documentary about his life, Lionel finally let his guard down. The man who had written some of the most romantic songs in history spoke with a trembling voice, not about fame, not about fortune, but about the one woman who had shaped him before the world even knew his name. "There was someone," he said after a long pause, "a long time ago, before all this." He didn't say her name. He didn't need to. The look in his eyes said everything. Fans had spent years speculating about the muse behind Truly, Hello, Still, and Say You, Say Me. Now they understood. The songs weren't just chart toppers. They were fragments of a love that had never truly ended. Lionel described her as the kind of person who could make silence feel like a conversation. Someone who made him feel seen before the spotlight blinded him. He went on, "You go through life thinking you have time, that you'll circle back to the people who mattered. But sometimes you blink and they're gone, or you're different, or they are." It wasn't regret that filled his voice. It was acceptance. This wasn't about Brenda, Diane, or even Lisa. It was about the woman from his youth, the one who had loved him before the tours, before the Grammys, before Lionel Richie became Lionel Richie. He admitted that losing her had quietly guided everything he wrote afterward. "She taught me what it means to care without control," he said softly, "to feel deeply without needing to possess." The audience, accustomed to his charm and polish, sat in silence. For the first time, the man who had built a career teaching the world how to love was showing them what heartbreak really looked like. Not loud, not bitter, but patient, enduring, and eternal. In that moment, Lionel Richie wasn't a legend or an idol. He was a man finally telling the truth, that sometimes the love of your life isn't the one you spend your life with. Legacy, family, and the final reflection. After that interview, something changed. Fans flooded social media, quoting his words, sharing their own stories of lost love, the one that got away, the one that still lingers in memory. Lionel Richie, who had once connected the world through melody, had done it again. But this time through honesty. He didn't hide behind nostalgia or rewrite his past. Instead, he faced it head-on. He admitted that his greatest songs came from a place of pain, and that maybe, without heartbreak, there would have been no Hello, no Truly, no Endless Love. The irony was cruel. The same loss that haunted him also gave him the music that made him immortal. At 74, Lionel began to speak differently about love. He told People magazine, "I've learned to stop comparing love. It's not fair to them or to me. He talked about Lisa Parigi, calling her my calm and my peace, emphasizing that she didn't replace anyone. She helped him live with the past instead of fighting it. Lisa understood. She never competed with ghosts. She was there when he performed at the 2024 Grammys, when he visited Buckingham Palace, when he laughed with his grandchildren. She respected the man behind the legend, the one still carrying an invisible ache. Nicole, Miles, and Sophia now see their father not just as a superstar, but as a survivor. He lived through betrayal, illness, and public ridicule, yet still sings about love every night. "You were the first page of a story I'm still writing," he once said when asked what he'd tell the woman from his past. It wasn't a plea. It was gratitude. Today, Lionel Richie is more than a musician. He's a reminder that love doesn't always fit the fairy tale. Sometimes it leaves quietly, shaping who you become instead of who you're with. And maybe that's why his music endures, because it's not about perfection, but forgiveness. He often ends interviews now with a line that sums up everything he's learned. Sometimes the love of your life isn't the one you keep, but it's the one that keeps you human. Which of Lionel Richie's songs do you think was truly written for her, the love he lost? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories behind the legends.